You're listening to the Jaybird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansite.com. We are the official ballroom chat for everything Toronto Blue Jays baseball, from game highlights to rumors and all the stuff in between. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and Liz McGuire. Now let's talk some Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Good afternoon, Blue Jays fans, on a special edition of the Jaybird Watching Podcast. I am your host, Craig Borden. I'm here with the birthday girl, Liz McGuire, and Jason Lyons. How we doing, guys?
I'm really good. It's my birthday today, and I'm not going to lie to you. I made some weird decisions recently. I don't really regret them, but as people know, I was made into a baseball card earlier in the year, what with me having a large head injury, and I have a life-size portrait of myself. It's a pop art portrait. I really enjoy it, but it turns out I just don't have the balls to have a portrait of myself in my own house. That's the vibe. I feel like when A-Rod apparently had a portrait of him as a centaur above his bed. So I'm good, and I was making decisions.
Not the same. Jason, how we doing, bud?
Well, big happy birthday, of course, to Liz. I'm buried in like 2.5 feet of snow here in Vancouver, which is pretty uncommon for us. We get it like every couple of years where we really get smashed up with it. But, boys have baseball tryouts coming up this weekend, and there's a lot of baseball talk and action going on. So always excited when things, 40 some odd days away from opening day, Craigers. So, I mean, it's there, it's in the ether. And I booked my trip to Arizona for spring break. The boys are in a tournament down there. And so we're going to catch some preseason action down there. So yeah, exciting.
Nice. Good deal. And without further ado, we are our afternoon guest this afternoon. We got Ricky Romero, former All-Star, giant king of Major League mounds, master of all things ground balls. Ricky Romero, how we doing, bud? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And I know I said it off air, but happy birthday, Liz.
Thank you.
Get used to some pictures of you. Hey, if I had a picture like the ones you had, you have your own baseball card and cool pictures. Put it. We need to see it in the background somewhere. So
I know. I was like thinking about it. Yeah, I don't know, Ricky. Next time you're in town, I'll trade you a baseball card for a signed ball. I literally kept them all under my bed, and people are like, "Can I get a baseball card?" And I'm like, "Nah." No.
It's pretty awesome. I showed my wife not long ago. I'm like, I'm doing this podcast, and I don't know if you remember, but this girl got hit in the forehead by a foul ball. And she goes, "No way."
Wasn't good. Wait, wasn't good, bud. Yeah. Wasn't good.
That's crazy. Anyway. That's crazy. And the fact that the Tops pay you for it?
No, man. They were just like, they just gave me all the cards. So there's only 110 cards. I've sold under 10. I sold one for like $3,000 on the internet. Yeah.
No way.
I'm donating a bunch of money to the kids, like to Holland Bloorview Hospital in Toronto, kids concussion.
Oh,
like, yeah, outside of that, but I'm like, no, like I'm a real person with a real job. Like I'm good.
Man, to wear that kind of line drive to the forehead.
Dude.
Did you go down, first of all?
No, this is the hat that I was wearing. No, I just stood up. And then somebody stole the ball from me, and they were mean to me. And then I was just like so zoodled. I was like, I'm fine. And my friends were like, Bud, you're not fine. Anyway, that was my evening. But like, yeah, I don't know.
I have so many questions, but we'll save them for another.
Listen, I'll take you out for a beer, man. Next time.
Now you know where we are, Ricky. This is exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is her claim to fame, and it's so interesting because every time we hear about it, there's a new little nuance that she leaves out, and she'll say it, and you're like, "That's horrifying and awesome, all in the same thing." So,
all right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a baseball fan who just sat in the wrong chair. Anyway, let's go.
Yeah. So, Ricky, we got to start the fun off on the show here tonight with a good question, because we actually had one of your former teammates in Travis Snyder, the Lunchbox Hero, was on this show a few weeks ago, and we were given a question that we had to ask you, and this is revolving around your hitting prowess. Apparently, you were quite, I won't say cocky, but rather confident in your hitting abilities, and I guess there was some back and forth between you and Travis about how well you could hit Major League hitting.
Hell no, I was never confident about hitting big. Never. I've always understood pretty hard, and I mean there is a story behind it. I mean, after my first career at bat in Philadelphia, I did come up to our hitting coach and I said, "Man, I'll never talk crap on hitting ever again." I mean, that thing is it's a different beast. You know, it's one thing to stand on a mound 60 feet 6 inches. It's another thing to get in the box at 60 feet 6 inches when the guy on the mound has a weapon, pretty much. You know, and I always understood, and you know what, honestly, the game of hitting, the art of hitting, is so fascinating to me. Even though I was a pitcher, I was always curious by it, and always like was in awe of having a front row seat, right, to watch some of the greatest sluggers in MLB history, not just on our side, but like, you know, from watching like the Jeters and Ortiz and Pedroias, Kevin Youkilis, all those, like during that time, it was amazing to watch so many hitters, so many great hitters, which a lot of them are in the Hall of Fame. Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro, you know, even though we see them, I don't know, twice a year, maybe we'd go there, they'd come to us. And to have all those guys always in the box and just watching the way they went about their business was always fascinating to me. Again, pitcher, you know, you would think like, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed watching good pitching, but I mean, to watch these hitters on a daily basis, we throw once every fifth day. These guys are going out there every single day, grinding it out, and just to watch them. I mean, and you take guys like, you know, like Travis Snyder, who you know, obviously didn't have the success that he wanted to have. He had some success. I mean, even to make it to that level, you respect it, and you still have an admiration for it, because it ain't easy. Like what comes easy to maybe Jose Bautista didn't come easy to, you know, somebody like Travis Snyder, and that's just the difference in the game of baseball. And everyone has their own unique stories, their own unique struggles, and it's always, like I said, it's cool to watch from the dugout. And I'm just glad I got my 2 hits, and I can take that to my grave.
Hey Ricky, it's
RBI.
Yeah,
that's right,
and an RBI. It's interesting for me. I have 13-year-old twin boys that are still playing pretty high. You know, they're playing pretty high level baseball and very involved. And I have a son who's a lefty. And so again, you probably know this. Your positioning starts to get limited, you know, to play first base or the outfield. So when did you sort of, you know, come to the realization that it wasn't going to be any other position for you? You were going to be a pitcher, and that's where it was going to roll through.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, like we're talking like 12, 13, I was an okay hitter on my team. But you're talking about in a park league type of setting. You know, when you start moving on up, the competition increases and it's different. And I got to high school and I was decent, but I knew that it was just like hitting wasn't my thing, and I just really didn't enjoy it that much. It was cool to hit and stuff like that, but I never really had those seasons where I was hitting home runs and going crazy at the plate. I just never really developed that skill. I mean, like I said, I was good when I was younger, and I think by the time I got to high school, I still played 2 different positions. And I think by the time I was a senior, that was my last year of ever hitting a baseball or touching a bat ever again. And that's when I realized, like, you know what, I'm going to college, and I know I'm going strictly as a pitcher, and I'm totally fine with that. But I think up until my senior year, I was playing either first base or pitching and hitting it, but I was no difference maker, that's for sure, in the batter's box. It was just kind of like, you know, who else are they gonna use? So I was, like I said, I was skillful enough to hit at the high school level, but nothing special.
Ricky, when did you know that the major leagues was a possibility for you? You're like, when did you know this is a path that could happen?
Yeah, I think it was, honestly, I think it was probably my sophomore year of college. I think that was that's when everything kind of clicked for me. I came in as a decent recruit out of high school, where I struck out a lot of hitters in high school. And again, you're in a small fish in a big pond. You're just kind of like, you know, how good can this kid be? You know, now he's coming to a Division I school where we'll see what he's got. Let's see if he's good enough. And I did okay my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I mean, that's kind of where, like I said earlier, something clicked. I mean, I got called into the office. I got told that, you know, I was a disappointment, that this is not the kid that we thought we recruited and stuff like that. But I think, you know, from a young age, the one thing that I did have, and I could put it up against anybody in the country, is that I had a great work ethic, and my mindset was always set on trying to get better. You know, you weren't going to hurt my feelings. I wasn't going to be like that kid that, you said something to and was going to go hide in a corner. I was like, all right, what's the challenge here? So when I got told my sophomore year by our pitching coach in front of a whole pitching staff saying, you're a disappointment for this year, you're going to go back to the bullpen. You got to continue to work hard. And maybe if something opens up next year, you can be a starter. Well, I said, all right, what is it that I need to work on? I went on and continued to work on it during fall ball. And come spring, when our season started, our number 1, 2 starters went down, and it opened the door for me. And I never looked back. That year, we went on to win a national championship. And then I was the only player from our team that went to go represent Team USA in the collegiate university championship in Japan. And the rest is history. It just kind of took off from there. It was one of those things where, again, the draft boards came out, and before, we used to have Baseball America and all that, and they used to like rank you and stuff like that. And it started from like, oh yeah, he might go top 10 rounds, top 5 rounds. And, and it was pretty cool to have your name mentioned. You're like, man, I went from a kid that didn't even have a starting spot on this team, on this national championship team, to being the number 2 guy for the best team in the country, and doing what we did, what I was able to do that summer. I was the only player in the country in 2004 to win a national championship and win a gold medal for Team USA. So, like I said, it just took off from there. And I think that's when I realized, like, all right, the possibility of one being drafted is in sight, and the possibility of maybe not coming back to school after my junior year is really in sight. So it motivated me even more, because I was like, man, I don't want to school anymore.
No. So on that note, obviously you got drafted in the first round by the Toronto Blue Jays, and I just wanted to mention this because one of our big fans of the show is already in the chat, and she's enjoying the fact that you get to spend her afternoon while she's driving around Toronto in a streetcar today. So
Awesome.
But I just think that speaks to a lot of the stuff that you had a wonderful career with the Blue Jays. You are a highly loved, member of the Toronto Blue Jays organization. You have been on the sportscasting and whatnot since, and it's been great to see you, so on and so forth. What is it meant to be for your career being drafted by the Blue Jays, and how that impacted the rest of your life?
Well, first of all, the feeling's mutual with me and the fans. I mean, it's something that I truly love. I mean, I absolutely love heading back.
They love you, dude. Like we've had a few guys on who've been popular, and obviously we follow a lot of social media and stuff. They love you. Like it's super awesome.
Well, like I said, the feeling is mutual, and it always, what? And honestly, when I retired, it took me a while to get back there, just because I felt embarrassed of the way things ended. I felt like I let everyone down, and we have no control. We as athletes have no control over our bodies in the way that they're going to break down, or if they're going to last for 15, 20 years, and that's what you're hoping for in a career. But it took me a while, because I just, like I said, I didn't have the ending that I wanted to have, missing out on all those playoff runs and stuff like that. That year that I got released, it was like that year, and just not being able to come back. And I think it was up until like a couple years after my wife and I were sitting up in our living room having coffee, and it was something like along the lines where, like, hey, at one point you're going to have to head back up there and stuff like that. And sure enough, we head back up there, and it was like the love was instant again. It was like, wow, like, okay, nobody hates me.
No, when I first moved to town in 2009, it was, you were the face of the Blue Jays. It was like Ricky Romero presents the Toronto Blue Jays, and it was like, yes, he's our guy. Like, let's go. And I would always try and catch a Ricky Romero start, and we were all rooting for you. And we get it. Like, you're an all-star, bud. You're an all-star. Like. And I guess, like, what is your relationship now with the game?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and to get back to, well, I'll answer that one, but to get back to Craig's question, I mean, the way it's changed it's changed my life forever. Again, and I say this to people all the time: the Toronto Blue Jays is one of a kind, because it's the only team in Major League Baseball that represents an entire country. You go to anywhere, and I was part of the winter tours and the winter, all those winter events. And you go across Canada and you see that logo everywhere. You see Sportsnet everywhere. So it didn't really hit me until after I retired and I started becoming part of those alumni events, that I was like, wow. So when I was pitching, it wasn't just the people in Toronto watching me, it's the people in Calgary, it's the people in Vancouver, it was the people in, Saskatchewan. It was just everywhere. And I was like, this is so dope. And I'm like, if you're a free agent, why wouldn't you want to come here? and that was always my thought process. I'm like, this team, like, and the fans genuinely love you. And we've seen what a playoff atmosphere can be like. I've seen it as a fan. I was there. I don't want to bring up old memories, but I was there as a fan against the Seattle series. And it's just the way it's impacted me and even my kids now. I think they're starting to have they're starting to realize like what I did there, especially the oldest one. At first he was like, why do people want to come and take pictures with you, Dad? Why do people want you to sign their balls? And he didn't really understand it. Now he understands it because he's into baseball. He's kind of noticing like, oh man, like, this is so cool. My dad played in big leagues, and I think, the fact, obviously my ties are even deeper with the city of Toronto and the country of Canada because my wife is from there, and my kids are half Canadian, and they're super proud of it, man. Like seriously, so proud of being Canadian, and I think it's honestly like we have a house there. We genuinely enjoy going there a lot, and anytime we get to spend during the summer and sometimes during winter, we head up there, and I think that's just, I feel like they've had the country of Canada has had a bigger impact on me than I feel like I've had on them. Honestly, it's just I love everything about it. I love traveling, not just to Toronto, but whenever we go to Vancouver and places like that, it's always fun.
Don't sell yourself short on that career part. You did damn well on for getting us damn close to a few Blue Jays postseason pieces there. You mentioned I'd say the big roadblock there for a bit. Yankees were the Yankees. The Red Sox were the Red Sox. Playing in the division that you played in during your playing time was the beast. There was no arguing with it. What was it like playing against all those teams and having that level of competition with you and the guys in the clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, it was, Casey Jansen always used to put it best. He was like, we got to go through the gauntlet the next 2 weeks. And that's what we used to call the AL East. Honestly, you'd go from Boston to New York and then down to Tampa. And Tampa, this is when Tampa had, Price and James Shields and all those guys. And you were just like, man, like we just got done facing two great offenses. Now we got to go face the best rotation in baseball. And it was always it was always fun though. I think it always presented a unique challenge. Anytime you're facing those teams on the road, it's always tough. It's one thing to face them at home. Obviously, there's some familiarity with your mound, with your crowd and stuff like that. You feed off of that. But when you have 50,000 people against you, it was fun, especially when we kicked their ass. And again, those lineups were so loaded. I mean, Boston to me gave me a hard time at Fenway. Like it was just, I could never get comfortable there for some reason. And it's just like I said, they were running out, Jacoby Ellsbury and Dustin Pedroia, who to me was one of my favorite players that I ever competed against. I mean, I know we mentioned the greats of Jeter and Teixeira and A-Rod and Big Papi and those guys, but to me, Dustin Pedroia, if he stayed healthy, I mean, we'd be talking about him in the Hall of Fame. And just it always amazed me, like his size and just what he was able to bring to the team was always amazing. And not to mention, I mean, like the starting staffs that both of those teams were throwing at the time too were really good. So yeah, it was fun, man. It was I grew up a Dodger fan here, growing up in Southern California, and I never got the chance to play at Dodger Stadium as a big leaguer. But to me, the next big thing was obviously pitching in Yankee Stadium, Fenway, and places like that. It was second to none. I don't think there's any vibe like it. I mean, I go to Dodger Stadium now every once in a while with the kids, and it's a cool vibe. But man, New York's a different beast, and so is Boston.
Oh, you're flipping out, man.
Craig, you went robotic on us.
You went down. But when you have a question of favorite park to pitch in, I'm just like, what?
Man, you know what? To me, I always like I said, I didn't get to pitch at Dodger Stadium, so I always loved coming home and pitching in Anaheim. I really did. I mean, that was cool always because just a lot of friends and family got to come out and watch me throw there, and it was a big homecoming for me to the point where my first one. It's a funny story. My first one. We faced Anaheim and everyone's ecstatic. Again, this East LA kid who's in the big leagues. It was like one of those things where I think my family bought like a whole section and stuff, and I was so caught up in like who has tickets, who doesn't, and stuff like that I kind of lost sight of track. I got a little sidetracked when it came to the game, and I struggled. And I remember the next time we came, I told my mom, "Here's X amount of tickets. You distributed them the way you want. Leave me." You know, this is a business trip. I'm not here to like mingle and say hi. Like I gotta come out here and win.
Yeah,
And
there's a rumor that like the players never play well in Tampa because everyone has houses there and they're all hanging out and having barbecues. That is a rumor.
But yeah, it was again. It to me that was always fun. I mean, the new Minnesota Twins Stadium was always beautiful too. Like, I think that one's like very underrated that a lot of people don't talk about, but. Man, I got to pitch in the Metrodome, and let me tell you, nicest of places. But when it came to Minnesota and Anaheim, always cool. I mean, again, this is taking out like the Yankee Stadium, Fenway out of the equation. I mean, those places are unique themselves, right? But like aside from that, I think I always enjoyed. I mean, Seattle was always cool too. It was cool because I remember Scott Downs in the clubhouse one day saying, like my rookie year, he goes, "You want to talk about being a rock star? Wait till you walk out of this tunnel." And I'm like, come on. There's no way. Sure enough, we walk out of the tunnel, and it was like I've never seen so many people there for batting practice. You know, we go on the road, and you get the people that kind of straggle in, and they're just like, oh yeah, like they're trying to catch a home run. This place was like packed to the max, and every catch you make, they'd go crazy, and you're just like fed off of that. I mean, that's the only time I got to play center field, right? I mean, in batting practice, so it was always cool to be out there for batting practice and enjoy that Seattle crowd, and that stadium to me is beautiful too.
On the same line, Ricky, I mean, it's, whenever we have pitchers on, one of the ones I like to ask is, do you have a favorite strikeout or a favorite out that you got in your career where every now and again you'll sort of just you look back on it and you're like, yeah, I did that. Like, I mean,
what's funny? It's we were just talking about this a few days ago because he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Ichiro, and he was a pest, man. Like I just couldn't. I mean, he was hard to strike out. First of all, he was hard to get out, let alone strike out. And I remember my rookie year. I wish I had a clip of it, man. I need to get back to the video guy in Toronto and see if he has that video, because I think I remember it was on a curveball and I struck him out, and I was like, wow, like as a rookie, you're like, wow, I struck out Ichiro finally, like, and I think it was only that one time that I got him. I mean, I got to strike out, A-Rod and Big Papi and Pedroia and those type of guys and Miguel Cabrera, but it was like to strike out Ichiro was like a huge feat of mine, and it was like looking back at it, I'm like, man, that was always a tough out. And another guy, and this is just because I grew up idolizing, and I got a chance to play against him, was Ken Griffey Jr.
Nice.
I mean, that was so dope. I mean, to get to face him in Seattle, and he comes up to the plate and he does his little batting stance. I thought that was so cool. That it took me a moment there. It was one of those where it was like, wow, like I'm living a dream right now. Like somebody pinched me, and then I kind of snapped into reality, and I was like, I got to get this guy out.
So
I got to blow 3 by the best guy ever.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
all I'm hearing here is this was a little bit like that movie, Little Big League, where Griffey steps into the plate a little bit for Ricky.
Have you seen that? Have you guys, as a total aside, have you guys seen that Little Big League? Do you know that that's a real clip that they did 2 takes, and the first take, they're like, okay, Ken, we need you to hit this over the wall home run. He's like, all right, fine. The guy throws the pitch, he crushes it to center, and they're like, could you hit it a little more to right? And he's like, oh, fine. And so I guess he broke his bat. He takes the next pitch and takes it farther out to right with a broken bat, and then he breaks the bat's broken. And they took 2 takes for this guy to hit 2 dingers.
That's how special they are. That's how special big league hitters are. Honestly, when you watch them hit batting practice, and this is somebody who's a baseball rat and just loves watching stuff like that. Like if I take my kids, sometimes they're like, I want a snack. I want to get up to the stands. And I'm like, wait, like I want to see these guys hit. Like you're looking at it from a different perspective, and just the way that they're able to control the bat in batting practice, where they can literally like press a button in their bodies and say, all right, I'm going to hit a home run right here. Boom, hit. Yeah. Hit a line drive to right field. Boom, they do it. Like, so it's just amazing the hand-eye coordination that big leaguers have. It's one thing like when you watch young kids do it, high school kids, college kids, but the big league level is a completely different beast when it comes to these guys.
I've been to spring training a couple of times, super fortunate. And we went to the Dodgers White Sox 2 years ago, I think it was now. And it was right in the heyday. They had everybody, and they had just traded for Kevin Pillar. He actually ran out. He actually like pushed me out of the way to get like, he was like, "Excuse me, sir," ran right by me into the thing. But you can get that close. And the thing that impressed me the most about it was the pressure that a hard hit baseball creates for like the 15 feet around home plate. And when there's no one there, like when there's 25 of you watching it, Justin Turner take him out to dead center, or Bellinger back then, you're like, they would hit the ball, and the pressure that was emitted from it, you're like, that's insane. Like, and a wood bat, like,
crack, not just
I'd love to see these guys, take a hype fire or one of those and hit 500 footers. Just, I mean, we've seen Vladdy and a few of those other guys do it down in the DR. They did that home run derby with the aluminum or the composite bats. Crazy.
It's funny you say that, because I was at my alumni game a couple of weeks ago, and Matt Chapman's a Cal State Fullerton alumni, and he came and was taking batting practice with the guys and taking ground balls. And in the middle of batting practice, he has somebody flip him a aluminum bat, and oh my God. It is insane what these guys are able to do with an aluminum bat. It looks like Sebastian, my oldest, his jaw was dropped. He goes, "Oh my God, Dad, how do you hit a ball that far?" I'm like, dude, these guys are special. Like,
yep.
he hit. I think he took like 3 swings with it, and he hit 2 out with ease, and just like it's almost just seems like they're just dropping the barrel on the ball, and the ball just explodes off their bat. It was cool. Like I'm always like you, Jason. I'm always curious. Like, put a hype fire on their just to see what it's like.
They should do 1 week of it, like like they do but the only thing is, I guess you have to worry a pitcher might get killed. Somebody might. You can't react.
I'm surprised I survived Division I baseball with -3 bats, and the way that they used to really bounce. And we look back, I talked to old buddies of mine, and I'm like, how did we survive pitching with these? Because I know now they've taken a little bit of the edge off of bats, although I'm sure they still jump, but before they used to really jump off the bat. And I'm like, I'm shocked I never really got a crazy scare. So thank goodness.
Yeah. I want to go back to Ichiro for 1 second, because you're one of a very select few that have actually gotten a strikeout. I just looked this out because I haven't looked at stats for Ichiro from this kind of a level, from this perspective of where you were at there. He's only had 1,000 strikeouts in a 19-year career.
That's crazy.
He never had more than 60 strikeouts in a season in his whole career. And I always harken back to Tony Gwynn as the standard of hitting for the two of us. Ichiro obviously is in that same ballpark, but it's like your own little exclusive club, Ricky, having a strikeout.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Shame on that guy who did it. Whatever writer didn't vote him in unanimously. Shame.
Oh Lord, let's not even start on that.
Ricky,
it's
I have a question.
Amazing over the years how many have missed out by that one vote. Like, who didn't vote for Griffey Jr.
Get out of here.
This is the staple. This is the face of baseball for a whole three decades, right?
They hate baseball. Ricky, I have a question. When is it time to shake off a catcher?
Great question. I think it just I feel like catchers, when it comes to their pitchers, they have the greatest of relationships with you, and they understand you, and they know, they trust you in throwing whatever they put down. I feel like unless you're really, I don't know, I hated shaking my guys off, because I always felt like they had a good understanding. They have a different view, right? They're in the box with the hitter. They're seeing their feet. They're reading maybe the first swing that a hitter took off of you. I know at times if I shook the catcher off and they got a base hit, we'd come back into the dugout and they're like, you should have trusted me. And that's why I was like, always like, you know what? If I put down what they tell me to throw, I can blame it on them, and I don't have to place the blame on myself for calling that pitch. So that's why I never really shook off. But no, aside from that, it was just more when you have guys like Jose Molina back there, John Buck, guys that had, obviously JP and I came up as young guys, and we learn. We learn from each other in the minor leagues. But when you get these guys like Jose and John, who had been in the big leagues for a long time, they pretty much like you'd come out of the bullpen and they'd always tell me like, trust me tonight, and I'm like, all right, that's all I need to hear. Trust me, like, unless you really want to shake, and obviously the rules of baseball have changed. Like if I'd shake one of them, they'd call timeout and come and talk to me and say, what are you thinking? And why are you thinking of this pitch? And I'm like, well, this is what I see. And they're like, okay, well, if you trust it and you're going to throw it with conviction, go ahead. But this is what I see. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, they're like, we didn't want to second guess each other, but they wanted to see what was my thinking. And I think that was what's special about these guys, that they always had a great idea of the game of catching, the art of catching, which I feel like it's a little bit of a lost art nowadays too, just along with pitching. But again, that's a conversation for a different day. And I always, I struggled against Boston, like I mentioned earlier. And I remember one year, Jose Molina caught me, and it was at the Rogers Center. And he said, today we're going to change your game plan completely different. You're a fastball changeup guy. We're going to flip them curveballs first pitch. We're going to go fastball curveball, and we're going to introduce the changeup later in the game. And I was like, whoa, like, all right, well, my curveball can be consistent, but sometimes it's kind of inconsistent. And he goes, trust me. And we made it through 8 innings. And I was like, whoa, like this is, it's one thing to do it as a pitcher, but it's another thing to have a battery mate who understands the game plan and sees the swings. And he goes, we're just gonna, they have a tendency to sit on your changeup a lot. So we're just gonna, and then we introduced the changeup like in the 4th, 5th inning, and it was like it worked to perfection. Like they were so baffled by it, and it was just a little bit of a tweak in what my strengths were, and he turned them into like something different and made me believe like, all right, I can flip my curveball 0-0 or 1-0 behind in the count, 2-0 behind the count, and throw it for a strike, and it just completely threw off their game plan, and they didn't really adjust that game to me.
And to a hell of a lineup those years too. So that was even saying even more.
Yeah, trust me. Like I was just telling somebody, I went to pick up my son from school the other day. This guy who we were talking baseball, and he goes, "Yeah, I played Division I baseball," and we were talking back and forth. And then before he walks away with his son, he goes, "Ricky, before you go, can I ask you one question? What was it like pitching in the big leagues?" And he's a Yankee fan, and he goes, against New York during those years. And I was like, you know what? Funny when you get to the stadium, they always have the lineup and in your chair, but they have it flipped around. And I told him the story. I was like, you'd walk in, you're the starter, so you don't walk in with everyone. You walk in a little later, and you'd sit there and you pull up to your chair and you flip it, thinking like, all right, hopefully I get 2 or 3 bench guys today just to kind of nah, man. It was like A game. It was Johnny Damon, and it was just the whole A lineup. And I'm like, Jesus, do these guys not take a day off?
Yeah, almost makes you want to throw one into the dugout and warm up, eh?
Right. Rookie year, I think I hit Jeter with a curveball on it, knocked him out of the game, and talk about getting booed by the crowd. I mean, they love number 2 there, and rightfully so. But I mean, it was a curveball that just bounced like 50 feet, but it was coming in hot, and it hit him like on the mid-foot, and it just dropped him right away. And I mean, everyone started booing right away. And
so you were the Yankee Clipper before Mark Wahlberg was. That'd be a good shirt for us.
Yeah, right. But it was, honestly, it was facing those teams. Like I said, it was a kid's dream. I mean, I watched a lot of these guys growing up, and to be in the same fraternity as them is forever going to be special to me.
I think that's something as well, Ricky, like, like obviously, like I was saying, I have 13-year-old sons, and they both love the game, but they don't know the game from time ago. And I was showing them some of your highlights, and my one son, Jet, who is he's a pitcher. He's like, Dad, it must've been impossible to be even an okay pitcher back then, just with the lineups. And he plays a lot of MLB. And so he knows the lineups, he knows the players. And he's like we're watching replays, and it's just like you were saying, like, it's like Jeter, A-Rod, Damon, like just Posada, like, oh my God, like
Cano. I think Cano was hitting 6, in that lineup, and then honestly, it was fun, man. It was always a challenge. It was one of those things where you'd walk out. I mean, I threw a complete game in New York one year, and honestly, it was one of the coolest things ever because one, you get to hear Frank Sinatra on your side, and I know they play it after every game, but to hear it and be the last man standing on that mound, you're just like, you feel like you're the biggest dog in the whole country, in the whole world. You're just like, man, like I did it, like against this lineup on a beautiful night in New York, and to be able to shut Yankee fans down that night was obviously really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's special moments. And I always say this, like my career wasn't as long as I wanted it to be, but it was a fun one. It was a fun ride. I still got to do it, for a little over 4 years. And obviously when all of us put on that big league uniform, you hope that it's for 10, 12 years and you give the team everything you got every single day. And I know I did every single start, like whether I was in pain or not, like it was like I gave it everything. And sometimes it might have not worked out for me, but in the end, again, it was one of those things where now I'm 40 years old and looking back, I'm like, man, it's so cool to be able to, like, again, be in that fraternity and be, go to Toronto and be amongst the guys and be treated, with kindness and respect from not just fans, but the organization. Still, when I head back, when I see old teammates, when I see old players I competed against, it's cool. Like you're just like kind of leave with like a little bit of a grin in your face, and you're like, wow, like this is cool. Like the fact, I've played in golf tournaments with like Albert Pujols and type of guys, and it's always cool, like, that they still recognize you everywhere you go. And it's just, again, it's a small little fraternity. In the end, when you look at the amount of baseball players that have made it to the big leagues, it's not that big of a list. It's crazy. You think it is, but it really isn't. And I think I tell my son that, because my son, they're kids. They ask funny questions, and he's like, how hard, Dad, I want to play in the big leagues. I want to be the best baseball player to ever live. Like, how hard can it be to make it to the big leagues? I'm like, wow, the percent chance is small, man.
It's even gotten harder in the recent years too, because now there's so many pieces of the minor leagues that don't exist from when you were a major league player. My friends in Bluefield, West Virginia, don't have a Blue Jay team there anymore. It's a Appalachian League, but that's all it is anymore.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's a shame, because that's where you got a lot of great stories, that reached the big league level. The guy you take, for example, Kevin Pillar, that round he was drafted in doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it's a shame. It's a shame, because that's the beautiful part of baseball, that not every guy that's on a big league roster is a first rounder or a top 5 rounder. Everyone has their own unique stories. Not every big league player is a Division I baseball player. You get JUCO kids, you get D3 and schools that you've never heard of, and guys that were picked in the 35th round, 40th round, but they grinded and they made it. And I feel like it's taken a little bit of that away, and to me, it stinks. It stinks, because you cut back on those teams, and a lot of the memories are made on those teams too. Even if you don't make it to the big leagues, you go through those levels, to the short season, to the low A, high A, double A, triple A, on your way to the big leagues. It's all part of the story. It's all part of the unique story that everyone has. And it stinks. To me, it stinks that we don't have as many teams as we used to. I don't know how organizations take a different way, but yeah, man, I think it's taken a little bit away from the special stories.
Hey, Ricky, one thing, and we have a lot of kids. I coached Little League and a lot of baseball. We have a lot of kids who actually subscribe and listen to the podcast. So, like what you're talking about is vital for them to know that there are a lot of ways to get to crack the nut of being a major league player, or even just being involved in Major League Baseball. So, to that point, how has the transition been into broadcasting? I selfishly, I was on radio for a number of years, and a lot of my friends commented to me previous to today. They were like, you got to ask Ricky how good he got at color that fast. So you have to know that people think you're like they're talking Tony Romo knowledge level here for. So how did you make that transition, and how did you make it seem so seamless?
I don't know about making it seem easy, but it's one of those things where I was asked to do it, and one thing just opened another door for another, and when the Blue Jays asked me to just, not that it turned into an everyday type of gig. Obviously I tried for that, but wasn't hired for it. But there's no hard feelings there. It was cool that they gave me an opportunity to be a part of it. And I think the biggest thing was like when everyone that I talked to, and I have a lot of friends in media and stuff like that. One of the things they'd always say, pretend it's me and you at a bar talking baseball. That's the way you should approach it. And Dan Shulman actually told me that too. He goes, it's me and you at a bar talking the game of baseball. Tell me what you see. And your perspective, you have a unique perspective. You've done it. You've been there. You've been at 60 feet, 6 inches. And you've been in that dugout. What's it like and stuff like that. So I was like, you don't have to do anything extra more special or anything like that. Just be you and trust that the game of baseball. And once I kind of started seeing it like that, it was like, okay, I got it now. And just when I was feeling comfortable, they didn't hire me. Damn it.
Welcome to media. Yay!
Well, Jamie Campbell's honestly, next week. Do you want to give him anything from your perspective?
It's fun because I think you see a whole different level, right? You see the game from a completely different level, and that's why I always say, like, as a fan, you sit there and you watch it and you think it's easy, but when you get our perspective from guys that have done it, you're like, I always try to paint the picture. Like, I never wanted to be the broadcaster that was like, oh yeah, like, why didn't he hit that ball out? That ball, how did he miss it? Right?
Nobody likes them.
It's just, to me, that's pointless. That brings nothing to the table other than shitting on a guy, and it's like, you know what, you're seeing it from a completely different angle. You're not seeing the slight movement that certain guys have. The little tail or the little cut that they have on their ball, and all that stuff plays a big role in it. And again, it's easier from the couch. Yes, I've been guilty of that when I'm watching other sports, and everyone's like, oh man, like how come you didn't do that, or how come you didn't make this play? But we watch it at such a slow motion when they show replays, and that thing is happening so fast, man. Everything's happening so fast. And people sometimes like, oh, well, you're also watching it in super slow motion, and you're watching why the ball didn't hit the barrel. Like you're correcting the hitter as that the hitter doesn't have that time that you're having from the couch.
Exactly. Liz, you had a question, I think, when we all kind of tried to say something.
I got a question. When you hit a guy, either on purpose or on accident, what is the discourse directly after? What is the fallout from that?
You know what? I never really hit anyone on purpose.
Okay.
I was told to back certain guys up. I did do that, but I never really engaged like that, like where it was like, oh yeah, like you got to drop somebody. I did hit Carl Crawford one year on a sinker up and in, and it just got away from me, and he dropped the bat, and I thought he was coming because he was the first hitter to ever like pop off to me, like just literally like start, like you just hear him like dropping F-bombs and like I was like, oh shit, like he's coming. Yeah. Because the way he dropped his bat, the way he slammed it down, and I was like, man, like, all right, here we go. Like, hopefully, I believe it was JP who was catching. I was like, hopefully he gets to him before he comes to me. But I think that was the only time that I kind of got a little bit of like, all right, if he comes, like I gotta react quick. And the funny thing is, I saw him after the game, and I was like, hey man, it wasn't on purpose, right? He goes, dude, I wasn't gonna do anything, but I was just in so much pain that I was pissed off about the pain that I was in. You actually hitting me. And I was like, he goes, you just hit me in the right spot. And I was like, oh man, like my bad, like, I was also trying to like back you off from. He goes, I totally get what you were doing, but yeah, so we talked about it. It was pretty funny, and there was no hard feelings there. But yeah, honestly, I never really got anything out of like it's not like I was like, oh man, like I feel bad. Like it happens. Like this is the way baseball is. And my kid, my oldest, has just got done playing fall ball this in the fall, and they started pitching. There, he's in that transition of pitching, and he hit a kid, and I don't think he recovered from it the rest of the fall. Like he was like mentally shook by it. He goes, "Dad, I don't want to hit another hitter." I mean, he dropped this kid like square in the back, boom, dropped, and I was like, "Dude, it happens, man. It happens. If anything, the hitter becomes a little scared of you, you know, and you use your advantage." And not that in the big leagues are scared to get hit, because some guys just don't feel anything, it seems like, but. I feel like it was, to me, it was part of baseball, right? I mean, I was never trying to hit anybody on purpose, but I was also going to pitch inside as much as I could. And I did do that just to get the outer half of the plate back. And it was something that was strongly emphasized in our organization. And for me, I mean, you know, you had a guy like Miguel Cabrera. The scouting report on him was always like, hey, move his feet up and in hard, because he starts getting antsy, he gets pissed off, and next thing you know, it opens that down and away for you, and his swing gets long, and you could get him out. So I was like, oh, all right. So we buzz him up and in, and you can just tell he started getting super antsy at the plate, and it was all right. I got him right where I want to. Although again, you never really want to think that with those type of hitters, because they're so good. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it was strongly emphasized to move certain guys' feet, and we had to do it. I mean, in order to be successful.
Why does this sound like has anybody heard that comment from Randy Johnson? I don't keep guns in my house. I just keep 5 baseballs on my nightstand.
I mean, honestly, it's the mindset you just had to take. And I feel like that, again, we're talking about lost arts in certain positions, pitching. I mean, I feel like we don't see it enough where guys pitch inside. Now if somebody gets brushed back and it's like they want to drop the bat and go get you right away. And it's like, dude, like I'm trying to like pitch inside. And if you're covering the plate and you're on top of that plate, like it's not my fault. I gotta establish my game plan. If not, you get these guys diving up and over the plate, and big leaguers, if they dive and they get that ball on the outer half, I mean, it's a home run or a line drive somewhere in the gap. So that's the difference. And I think I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about him, but that's what made Doc Halladay so damn good, man. I mean, he just knew. I mean, he's on another level of the art of pitching, and like he's just the master at it, like a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like he was just that skilled. He knew exactly what the ball was going to do and exactly where he wanted to put it every single time, which is special. I mean, you talk about big leaguers and then you talk about Hall of Famers and those percentages, and that's who he was. I mean, it was just awesome to watch that, and just the way he took pride in locating his fastball and his sinker and his curveball and stuff like that. It was always pretty cool to watch, and it's one of those things where I learned a lot just by watching him. Not that I had the same stuff as him, but it was like, all right, I'm going to do what he's doing. He's moving feet, he's moving eye levels, and again, that's something that I feel like you don't really see with a lot of pitchers anymore. I mean, changing eye levels was huge when I was coming up. Yeah, it's all gas, no brakes. And I mean, that's just kind of what it is. And then you blow out, and it's like, who's the next guy that's throwing 100? You know, and it's just, to me, it's like, no, let's learn location, let's learn eyesight, changing eyesight, and then changing speeds. That was the whole mantra behind pitching back in the day when I was coming up. And I'm not trying to sit here and be a back in the day type of guy, but that's kind of the way we came up, and I mean, I enjoy the game of baseball still and enjoy the watching it and stuff like that. But I mean, it's definitely changed, and hopefully, I'm still waiting for the first organization to say, you know what, we're gonna go a little bit old school and do things differently with the analytical part of it. I mean, I like analytics, and I like teams that blend them and not, oh yeah, like we got to go by strictly by the computer and stuff like that, which a lot of teams tend to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting you would say that he gets lead-in points here. Yeah. See, Ricky, this is what you need when you're in the media. When you continue on in the media, is Craig's going to cue you up for some lead-in points here now, and you didn't even know what you'd done.
Yeah, I got segue points. So you started going down the avenue here. I want to finish the hour out here talking about those teams you did play on in Toronto. We do have a comment here from one of our regulars that wanted to know if you had any real crazy good advice while you were working with Doc Halladay in your career that either helped you personally or on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was that's a great question, and I have a to this day, I still have a special text messages, or special text message saved from him. We were in New York playing the Yankees. He was with the Phillies at the time playing the New York Mets, and they were making up a game, so we happened to stay at the same hotel. And it was really cool because I was struggling, he was struggling, called my hotel room, or called or texted me on my phone, and then said, "Hey, can you come to my room?" I went to his room and we sat there and we probably had a 2-hour conversation that I wish I could have like recorded somehow. And we honestly talked about everything that was going on in our life. Everything. Like it was like, I don't know if I'd known that'd probably be the last conversation we'd ever have, like that type of conversation, then, I appreciated it so much at the time, but it made me appreciate it even more. And I remember he sent me a text message that described a lot of just about the game of baseball and life. And it's stuck with me big time. And to this day, I still read it from time to time. Sometimes with young ball players when they're struggling. I know with Alek Manoah, Aaron Sanchez back in the day, like I shared that message or bits and pieces of that message and say like, look, this is the way this guy approached it, and he's one of the best. And they were always so grateful for those for me showing them, because again, it's one thing that meant a lot to me, and I just don't share it with anybody. So I feel like it was like the right time to share it with those guys, because at the end of the day, like my time in baseball is done, but I feel like I have a lot to give in any way that I can help, especially the Toronto Blue Jays, man. I mean, they hold a special place in my heart. My kids are probably the only ones in Southern California who wear Blue Jay gear to school every. It seems like I think my son had a Vladdy T-shirt today that he was wearing, and he wears that thing nonstop. So I mean, again, that's the kind of impact that message had on me, and it's forever going to be special to me.
It's awesome. So obviously, we talked about Roy. We all love him. You have that great moment, and obviously a great career with him as well. In that locker room that you guys had, you had some really great guys to watch every day and go to war with in the American League East. And you guys did come very damn close in 2010 to pushing over that line. Being in that locker room, that clubhouse, all you guys pushing each other to be the best and everything like that. What was the specialness of being in those locker rooms with the Jose Bautistas, the Roy Halladay's, and over that part of your career and stuff?
Oh man, it was
Aaron Hills, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and people forget. I mean, Scott Rowland, another Hall of Famer that I got to play with, it was half a season, but man, having him at third base, some of the balls that, I mean, screamers that they'd hit off me my first year, I was like, there's no way anybody's getting that. And I turn around, he was like backflip, it seemed like, or, throwing himself down the line and throwing from a knee, getting the runner out by 10 feet. And you're like, whoa, there's defense, and then there's big league defense, and then there's Hall of Fame defense. And then you have Vernon Wells in center field, who there was a ball in the gap, and you're like, oh no, and then you look back and he's camped under it. Like it was really cool. We had a cool we had a special group in 2009. We had a really cool group. I mean, I couldn't have came up with a better group than that group of guys. I was a young pup amongst different guys. I mean, a bunch of guys who were established already, from, like you mentioned, Lyle Overbay, Aaron Hill, Marco Scutero, Scott Rowland, Vernon, Alex Rios, and I think Adam Lynn might have been in left field / Travis Snyder. And at the catching position, it was like Rod Barajas, Michael Barrett. I mean, old school names. And guys that took me under their wing. It was like not necessarily Doc Halladay. I mean, obviously he was just a different beast. But like guys like bullpen guys like Scott Downs. My locker was right next to Scott Downs, Jason Frazier, those type of guys, BJ Ryan. All those guys, and they took me under their wing and they showed me the ropes, and pretty much taught me how to be like a big leaguer, and what is it going to take for you to stay here. And you've done it, you've done the hard work to get here. What is it going to take for you to keep going and stay on top of this team? And I think they gave me a good push going into 2010. And then obviously we see Jose Bautista blossom into the star that he turned out to be. And then Edwin Encarnacion blossomed into that star. And I feel like for me, I'm of Mexican descent. So it was always cool to be able to communicate with both sides, from an English standpoint, from a Spanish standpoint. And whatever we could do to kind of bring both of them together, that's what we were going to do. And we might not have won, but those teams are always so pretty. There, you asked those guys, we were about as tight as anybody, and we just obviously didn't have that late push that we needed in 2010. But man, like those teams were, I mean, you take them with you forever because they were part of the journey. It was, I talk about like the journey that I had, but it was with 24 other guys, or 30 other guys, because of all the transactions that happened throughout the course of the year and stuff like that. It's memories that you'll never forget.
And then how many divisions an 85, 87 win team actually get you in the playoffs right now? But that's besides the point. So it is the end of the show. Liz, Jason, I want to make sure you got any other questions that you got burning in here before I get a few from the comments.
Yeah, I just, one thing for me, Ricky, and again, thank you so much for coming on. It's an honor to have guys who played, the big thing for guys like me and Craig, and I'm sure Liz at some levels too, is we idolize the game so much. And when someone who's actually been there, comes on and talks about the reality of the trenches and the reality of the grind and all the rest of it, it helps out so much with the kids and everyone else who watches the cast. So, again, thank you for that. I mean, one of my big ones, having a child who, pitches similarly to the way that you do. How did you start to adapt the spin on your ball as you got? I mean, you had a pretty solid fastball that you can count on, but how did you start to adapt that spin? Where like was that at Cal? Was that at Fullerton, or when you hit the majors where you really were like, well, I can start to manipulate this thing much more significantly and rely on that for outs?
I think it was in the big leagues. I think when I made the team in 2009, you start realizing what you can do to the baseball and how to manipulate it. I mean, it's funny because you guys will probably laugh, but the guy who taught me a cutter was Brian Tallett. Not a big name guy or anything like that, but I always was like, man, why do hitters have a tough time hitting him? Like what? And he goes, I throw a cutter, dude. And I was like, what the heck is a cutter? Can you teach me how to hold it? And he taught me one day, and I started playing with it, and it just brought a completely different aspect to my game. And I went from like pitching inside on a 4-seam fastball to now cutting the ball inside. And it changed the whole complexion of my repertoire. And I already had a really, really good changeup. So it just opened it up even more. And I thought that was always pretty cool because, again, it doesn't have to take a superstar to learn from. Sometimes it's those guys that are the grinders. And Brian Tallett was one of them. He'd go from the bullpen to a starter, back to the bullpen and back and forth. And he bounced around. And I was like, okay, like I gotta see this thing. Let me show me what you got. And he showed it to me one day, and I ran with it, and I learned from it. And again, it's those little things, those little nuggets that you learn along the way, and you learn how to be, how to learn all these little different tricks in the big leagues and how to stay there. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
You had a lot of teammates in that same ballpark there with Brian Tallett, Scott Downs, I was wondering if those guys with the talents that they had, if they were able to stick either one or the other, what their careers will look like, because you saw the glimpses of how good they were on each. And It was just one of those things that got blurred in the lines a little bit. I was wondering, but it wasn't really like they had like wow me stuff. Like you're like blown away. You're like, whoa. They just knew how to pitch, man. It was like, Scott Downs was amazing to me. I mean, his sinker to a curveball, and it was more of a mind game for them. Like, how can I trick the hitter into, grounding this ball to second base? And that's the mentality that they had, the mentality of a guy who throws 110, but they knew that, hey, my 90, 92, Darren Oliver was another guy that I played with. And I was always amazed. I'm like, wow, like, it's 92, 93, maybe tops, but man, they get outs every time they come. And I feel like that's what the game of baseball is missing now. Like, it's cool to see the gun light up, but these guys were special in the way that they went out and got outs because they were consistent at it. And I feel like the consistency sometimes is missing nowadays. Go ahead, Liz.
All right, this is a pretty wild question. I put it to the Reddit that you were coming on the pod, and of course, everyone lost their brain that you were going to be here. So the question is, they know what I'm going to ask, is there's a weird rumor back in 2011 that Brett Laurie freaked out because Jesse Litch accidentally ate his turkey clubhouse sandwich in the clubhouse, that the situation was so tense that management had to get involved. Did this actually happen?
No.
All right, there we go.
I don't remember any of that.
Okay.
I don't know. And I mean, 2011, I was on top of my game, so I would have remembered and been in the middle of it. No, I don't think it ever happened. I think that's somebody made up that rumor. I don't know.
Good. I love disproving rumors.
But maybe I was in the weight room or something if this happened. But no, I don't.
You would have heard about the sandwich.
Yeah,
you were running the holiday mile at the top of the ballpark instead.
Yeah, I think I definitely would have heard about it. No, I mean, Laurie was. We'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Good deal. Liz, did you have any other ones?
No, I think that's it. I think we're almost at time. But I just I guess that Cito Gaston. Wow. What was it like? I guess pitching for kind of an old school legend.
Very old school. Hated pitchers. I mean,
them.
One of those things that he was a hitting guy, and I don't think I ever really truly appreciated Cito till after I retired. Till after I looked back, and I was always like, man, why is he so hard on me? Like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? But then you come to learn, like, that's just how he treated pitchers, and that's how it was. You learn from the old school guys from the 92, 93 teams, and they're like, that's how Cito was. Like, he was even tougher, like on pitchers, and it was always like, how can he make me better? What can he say to tick me off to kind of boom hit that next level with him? And he did a good job at that. And the cool thing that I appreciated about him was that it was your game. That's all he kept it at. It was your game for you to win or to lose. And if you were in a tight situation and he saw that you still had some fight in you, he would leave you in. And I think that was always special to me, that the fact that he would do that, and he'd let you get out of your own trouble was always cool. And I most often than not, I feel like I was pretty successful at that. But he definitely when it came to that, it's like he'd come out, or how do you feel? You good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, let's go. Boom, walk away. And there's other instances where he'd come out and chew you out, and then you just wear it. I mean, it's part of the big leagues and part of who he was as a manager. And to me, I mean, to this day, I mean, we have a great relationship. Every time we see each other, it's always fun to catch up with him.
Yeah, awesome. Cito's going to be like the advisor to the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team, which is like in the park beside my house.
Cool.
He's like their advisor this year. So I don't know, maybe I'll see Cito in the park.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you have to make sure you put a fake mustache on for what Travis did while he was talking about that story last time. I assumed you were in the dugout for that one, Ricky, where they all Vernon and all them did the fake mustaches, and then Travis apparently found out on this show a few weeks ago that he might actually have a major league record as the only guy to go to home plate, hit a home run wearing a fake mustache.
Oh yeah, I think I do remember that. That's right. Yeah. I mean, again,
he was pretty proud that he dawned on that during our show a couple weeks ago.
Those are some fun teams, man. Travis, Casey. I mean, those are the guys that I came up with. Obviously, we had the established guys, but it's almost like those established guys took us right in, from me, Travis, JP, Brett Laurie. Like, they took us in with open arms, and I feel like it built like a bond during that time that was pretty special. And when we went out to dinner, it was like it was everyone. We never really tried leaving anybody out or anything like that. It was some special times, and definitely moments that you obviously will never forget.
No. So I got one question from the comments here before we wrap it up, and this is a new school, old school conversation for you. And this is one of our friends is asking thoughts on the pitch clock. Would you have been happy with the pitch clock, or would you have been one of the ones that's I've seen what it does for the game, but obviously great to see somebody who pitched.
I get asked this question. I like it a lot. I learned from Doc Halladay and how to work fast, and I don't think it would have done anything to my game. I don't think it would have hindered it at any point. I think I would have been just fine with the pitch clock. But again, I think there's honestly, like, having it timed. Obviously, it feels weird to me, but I think I would have been fine with it. And the fact that you really can't shake off anymore and kind of turn it into a cat and mouse game. It's like you got to think fast and you got to go with what you think you're gonna get away with. And I think I would have been fine. I mean, I don't hate it, but I also don't like it. I'm like whatever about the pitch clock. I know some guys have complained a lot about it, and other guys like it. So I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, it does speed up the game, but also I feel like it takes a little bit away from the game of pitching.
Good deal. So, Ricky, we give every one of our guests a shameless self-promoting or talk about whatever you would like to talk about at the end of the show here. So this is your chance. Go ahead and whatever want to get off your chest.
Oh man, what? I mean, nothing negative. I mean, I'm gonna be a 40. I told you guys off air. I'm a 40-year-old student right now. I'm about to finally graduate university in May with the sociology.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm really excited about that. The fact that my kids are gonna get to watch me walk with the cap and gown is pretty cool, pretty special, and I'm looking forward to actually walking on stage and graduating and you know, it's a quest I started back in 2003 as a student, and here I am in 2025 finally finishing this degree, and it's going to be pretty cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to hopefully one day putting it to use, and I want to maybe my wife is really pushing me to get my teaching credentials because she thinks I'd make a great teacher, and I just have a passion for teaching kids and being around kids and maybe coaching high school baseball and showing sharing my wisdom with them and them learning from me and me learning from them. I enjoy the heck out of coaching. So yeah, maybe one day we'll see. But right now I'm looking just forward to graduating and maybe getting back to the links soon to golf, because it's been a long time since I was golfing last, and now I do it very, very rare, and I really miss it.
Yeah, there you go. So I have a strange feeling that Ricky can hit some tanks with the golf clubs. I don't know why.
It's okay.
Good deal. Excuse me. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Ricky. It was a great show. We loved having you on. We love talking baseball. It's great to get some of these wonderful stories from you. It was greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Liz. Thank you for putting it together. Happy birthday once again. Hope you have a great day. And if you guys ever need somebody to talk baseball during season, just don't hesitate to reach out.
Let's go.
We're going to hold you that.
Love having you.
I love it.
There you go. So
all right.
Next week, we actually have, I'm not sure if you got to work with Jamie Campbell, but I'm assuming you might have during your little stint there on Sportsnet. Is there anything you want to pass on as a question like Travis did to you?
Oh, man. What would be a good one? I can't think of anything. We never.
All I'm hearing is you're gonna have to text us another one later when it comes to mind.
Maybe I'll come up with one. Yeah. But you guys have a great day. I actually have a 1:15 Zoom meeting with a professor of mine right now. So
good deal. Thank you very much again, Ricky. We'll make you late. We'll wrap the show without you. Have a great one and good luck. Cheers.
Thank you.
So, Blue Jays fans, thank you very much for listening to An Afternoon with Ricky Romero. We greatly appreciated having him on the show. We are going to have all things fun in Blue Jays baseball for you over the next month. As I had mentioned, Jamie Campbell from Sportsnet Fun will be here with us next week to talk even more baseball. So we were going to have some fun chit-chatting with them. Make sure you get those questions in, just like you did here chit-chatting with us and Ricky Romero. We will make sure we ask them for you on your behalf. We will be back at our normal time, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific Coast time. Make sure you join us, and we will have some fun on the wonderful barroom chat that is Jaybird Watching. Have a great day, and cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Jaybird Watching podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.
Woo!